As a Resident Evil fan, I am completely losing my mind. They just finished off the Capcom Resident Evil showcase, and it was jam-packed of only 2 games, but both of them were complete deep dives. We saw the newest edition of Resident Evil Village called the Winter's Update, and additionally, they showed us about 15 solid minutes of completely new gameplay for Resident Evil 4 Remake, and all of it, top to bottom, looks completely insane. But I want to go through this. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and specifically the one part of it that was surprisingly ugly. So please, if you could, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be doing a lot of Resident Evil videos coming very soon. So let's start things off by talking about Resident Evil 4, because I guess I'm most surprised by how different this is. Now, I do want to make it clear, I've always been a Resident Evil 4 super fan. I've always thought the game was incredibly fun. It's incredibly fast, but that's also the one detriment I had to it back in the day. I grew up playing a lot of the original Resident Evil games. 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, even Survivor to a lesser degree, and the shift in tone, making it more action-focused, obviously making it so that Leon Kennedy could literally suplex cult members and stuff. As fun as that was, I always felt like they sort of abandoned the terror of it. The Resident Evil 4 remake looks downright terrifying in literally every single aspect. They showed us deep dives of the new character models. The new Ganados actually have completely additional attacks. They showed the chainsaw guy, and he can actually destroy environments. It showed him waving a saw around, and not only can he break down doors or cut through shelves like he could in the original game, it showed him literally chopping down stuff, literally taking support structures of houses and busting them up. This is a whole new game, and I do mean that top to bottom. They showed the entire intro of the game itself, back when Leon first shows up to the village, and he starts just cracking the clues to find the president's daughter, Ashley. And when he does this, instead of the teeny tiny one-bedroom house that we originally discovered at the start of RE4, now it's a multi-tiered torture dungeon with pieces of bodies, bloody blankets taped up to cover barely held together doorways. It is so dark and it is so macabre. I mean, this looks so 10 out of 10 fantastic. Now, they showed the entirety of the intro. They showed a lot of combat. Then they showed the big standoff where you get attacked by a swarm of Ganados in the village, which kind of ends the original tutorial of the game back in the day. And then, to top that off, they followed it up with a huge story trailer for the Resident Evil 4 remake, which showed us the village chief, another great glance at Ada Wong, and here brings the only part of this I didn't completely love. So this is Luis. Obviously, this guy is somebody that helps you out a lot in Resident Evil 4. He's the person that synthesizes the cure and the antibodies. He does a lot to battle against Salazar and the terrible freaking forces at work here. Well, I don't particularly like the way they made him look. Everybody definitely looks dramatically different. I mean, everybody. Ada Wong, Leon's still wearing the famous awesome jacket, of course, thankfully. But everybody has been completely redesigned. Even the merchant. I actually cheered when we saw the merchant because he just looks so hyper-realistic. I love, 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 love that. Luis, he seems kind of like a scuzzy dude, which is kind of shocking to me because, I don't know, he always seemed like the lovable bad boy, and now he seems like just a guy who's probably legally allowed to not go near playgrounds. But anyways, overall, 10 out of 10 when it comes to the Resident Evil 4 remake. I get the vibe that we're about to get a demo for this. The fact that they showed what is essentially the first 30 minutes of the game, we got a full demo for Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 7, RE2 remake, RE3 remake got a demo, 7 and 8 all got demos. I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to give us a demo for Resident Evil 4. I mean, what we saw today is probably the demo. The only reason they didn't release it today, I would bet money on this, is because instead they released another demo, which is the Resident Evil 8 third-person update. It's now playable. In fact, I'm going to make a video about that here in just a second once I'm done freaking screaming my head off about this. Now, the other half of the presentation was about the Ethan Winters update, the conclusion to the Ethan storyline in a way. Now, I'm going to be talking about spoilers for RE8 Village. If you haven't played Resident Evil Village so far, I do need to at least vaguely hint about the main story. The tale of RE8 is very, very good. I really loved Resident Evil Village. I loved Heisenberg. I liked the idea of, Ethan Winters practically on a mission, even if it would kill him to save his daughter. I thought this was fantastic. Resident Evil Village pressed every button for me. I loved the horror. I loved the werewolves. I loved the vampires. I loved Lady D. Please step on me, Lady D. Seriously, it was a top-notch game, and it looks like they're trying to focus a bit more on the scares to sum this up. Obviously, Ethan Winters died at the end of the game. Rest in pepperoni, my brother. But his daughter continued to live. Rose Winters is still alive. She's still walking around, and because of the strange condition of Ethan Winters, the fact that he was kind of a monster himself biologically, him getting his wife pregnant ended up making his daughter have psychic abilities. I don't fully understand it, but you know what? Resident Evil loves to go into weird gobbledygook. 6 sentences ago, I admitted the fact that there's werewolves and vampires in this universe now. I think this DLC looks incredibly good. Now, the DLC is 2 separate things. It's a complete rebuilding of the main campaign of Resident Evil Village. If you want, you can play through all of it just as it originally existed, as Ethan Winters, but now third person, and that looks great. It's got new animations, wider field of view. They said the whole point of this was that they felt that some people were still a little bit too terrified by Resident Evil Village, and so this helps you sort of create that spacer between you and Ethan's pain, which I think is an admirable thing. But the other part of this is the Rose Winters story. It's this 4 or 5 hour chapter where we play as her going on this psychic adventure to try and eliminate her own powers. It seems like she goes on a psychic deep dive of her own mold infection with the megamycetes to try and sever the connection and live a normal life. Now, this is technically 16 years in the future, which even that is kind of interesting to me as a Resident Evil super fan, the person who read the comics, the books. I watched all the terrible movies and Netflix shows. I even read the terrible Resident Evil manga. But I'm curious about the idea of being that far in the future, even if it is for this psychic tiny adventure. Now, what really struck a chord for me in a positive sense about this entire presentation was the fact that it definitely feels like horror is back in the Resident Evil universe. They want to terrify you. They want you to be counting your bullets. In fact, for the entirety of this Rose Winters DLC, it looks like we're going to have no weapons. We're only going to be able to maybe freeze enemies as we try and sneak past them in our own inner demons. This looks great. Resident Evil 4 looks just absolutely like it's going to scare the heck out of people. This is the future of Resident Evil. The only thing else I kind of wish we had, and this is my own personal wish list, I'm not even saying this as like an insult to the presentation, I do wish that we had at least seen a title card for Resident Evil 9. There's been so many tidbits and leaks, which I've talked about in some videos, that apparently they are working on a Resident Evil 9, that the reason that there is a different director for the Resident Evil Village DLC is because everybody's moved on to that next major project. I'm just so curious to see the protagonist, the monsters, anything. All this stuff looks so great. I'm just always excited for that next chapter. I am that Resident Evil superfan that is always just wanting to beat the game, speedrun it, conquer in the hardest difficulty, and then go on to the next game. But what did you guys think about it? Honestly, I have to give this a 10 out of 10 simply because of all that RE4 footage. But seriously, tell me your favorite aspect of the Resident Evil showcase in the comments down below, and tell me if you think that Luis is a bit of a sussy baka. Tell me your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. What a freaking great day. I'm so damn happy. Alright, I'm going to go play the Resident Evil 8 Village DLC special first person, third person thing. I want to do a video about that, so be ready for that here in like an hour. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.